I've always had the habit of turning everything off before leaving the house. Always. Especially the TV, because I've had these paranoid thoughts about it overheating or something. So that day before heading to work, I did what I always do, turned off the TV, checked the windows, locked the door, and left. My day was normal, nothing unusual. Work, traffic, the usual exhaustion. When I got home that evening, all I wanted was a shower and some rest. But as soon as I put my key in the lock, I felt a strange discomfort. Something was wrong. I opened the door and walked straight into the living room. The TV was on. And not just that, it was playing a show I had watched weeks ago. I froze. I just stood there, staring at it, trying to process what I was seeing. It wasn't some random channel or a live broadcast. It was the exact same episode of a reality show I had watched alone on my couch days ago. The same moment, the same dialogue, as if someone had hit replay, but I hadn't left the TV on. I was absolutely sure of that. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to come up with a logical explanation. Maybe there was a power surge? Maybe the TV had some kind of automatic restart setting I wasn't aware of. But why would it be playing that specific episode? My hands felt clammy as I reached for the remote. I pressed the power button. Nothing. The screen didn't even flicker. I pressed it again, harder this time. Still nothing. My stomach twisted. I walked over to the TV and pressed the button on the set itself. Finally, it turned off. I let out a shaky breath and took a step back, staring at the dark screen. The room felt unnervingly quiet now. I tried to laugh it off, convincing myself it was just some weird technical glitch. But as I turned to head to my bedroom, I noticed something else. The couch cushions were slightly indented, as if someone had been sitting there. I hadn't sat on the couch that morning. I had left in a hurry. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. My apartment was small, one bedroom, one bathroom, an open living area. There weren't many places to hide, and yet I had this awful, creeping feeling that I wasn't alone. I tried to shake off the paranoia, but my body wasn't listening. Every hair on my arms was standing up. My breath felt too loud in the silence. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe I had leaned on the couch without realizing it that morning. Still, I couldn't ignore the way my stomach twisted with unease. I turned on every light as I made my way through the apartment, checking each room. The bathroom, empty. The bedroom, empty. Closet, empty. There was nowhere for anyone to hide. But then I noticed something that made my blood turn cold. My bedroom door. I always left it open when I wasn't home. I liked coming back to an open space, but now it was half closed. Not fully shut, but just enough to make me stop in my tracks. Had I done that in the morning? I was almost sure I hadn't. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. I pushed it open, bracing myself for what? I didn't even know. But the room was empty. Nothing was out of place. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there. I stood in the doorway, my heart hammering in my chest. The room looked exactly how I had left it that morning, bed made, clothes still folded on the chair, blinds slightly open. But the air felt off, stale almost, like someone had been in here too long, breathing in the space. I took a cautious step inside, my ears straining for any sound. Nothing, just the low hum of my fridge in the other room. I exhaled, forcing myself to calm down. Maybe I had left the door like that. Maybe I had imagined the weight on the couch. Maybe the TV had some weird autoplay setting. But then, just as I turned to leave, I saw it. My closet door. It was open just a crack. Barely an inch, but enough to make my stomach lurch. I never left my closet open. I hated the idea of waking up and seeing a dark gap in the middle of the night. My hands felt numb as I stepped toward it, every part of me screaming not to. I reached out, fingers brushing the wood, and with a deep breath, I yanked it open. My clothes swayed slightly from the movement, but nothing else. No one was there. My body sagged with relief, but before I could fully exhale, I noticed something on the floor. A single dirty footprint. And it wasn't mine. My stomach dropped. The footprint was dark, almost like mud, and it was positioned in a way that suggested someone had been standing inside my closet, watching, waiting. My breathing turned shallow, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to believe it was just dirt I had tracked in myself, but I knew better. My shoes were clean when I got home. This wasn't mine. I backed away slowly, my eyes darting around the room, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Was someone still in the apartment? Had they left? How had they even gotten in? My front door was locked when I arrived. The windows were shut. I felt the walls closing in on me, every sound suddenly too loud. Then, just as I reached the bedroom doorway, the TV turned on again. I nearly screamed. My body went rigid as I heard the same reality show playing, the same episode, at the exact same point where it had been before. My breath hitched. I was frozen in place, staring at the glow of the TV reflecting off the walls. I could hear the voices, the fake laughter, the exact same conversation I had already watched weeks ago. It was impossible. My hands were shaking as I stepped back into the living room. The remote was on the coffee table, untouched. I grabbed it, pressing the power button over and over. The TV wouldn't turn off. Panic clawed at my throat. I slammed the remote down and reached for the power cord behind the TV. My fingers wrapped around it, yanking hard nothing. The screen stayed on. The voices continued, louder, distorted almost, like they weren't coming from the speakers anymore, but from somewhere inside the room. I turned around so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet. That's when I saw it. The couch. The cushion where the indentation had been before now, it was deeper, as if someone was sitting there. But there was no one. I felt my chest tighten, my body refusing to move as my mind scrambled to make sense of what I was seeing. The indentation wasn't subtle anymore. It was deeper, heavier, as if someone unseen was shifting their weight. My skin prickled, a cold sweat forming on the back of my neck. I wasn't alone. I knew I wasn't alone. Then, the voices on the TV warped, slowing down like a tape being dragged through mud. The laughter stretched into something unnatural, something wrong. I could barely breathe as I watched the cushion slowly rise, as if whatever had been sitting there was now standing up. My body finally reacted. I turned and ran for the door, fumbling with the lock, my fingers clumsy with panic. Just as I twisted the handle, the TV snapped off by itself, plunging the room into complete silence. For a few agonizing seconds, I just stood there, my hand still gripping the door handle, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The silence in the apartment was deafening. No hum of the fridge, no distant sounds from outside, just pure, unnatural stillness. It felt like the walls were pressing in, like something was standing right behind me, waiting. I couldn't take it anymore. I yanked the door open and bolted out, slamming it behind me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely lock it, but I forced myself to, my fingers numb and clumsy. Then I just stood there in the hallway, my back against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. I had no idea what had just happened, but I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going back inside that apartment. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. I didn't know where to go. My legs felt weak, my mind foggy with fear. I pulled out my phone, thinking about calling someone, anyone. But who would I even call? What would I say? Hey, my TV turned on by itself, and something invisible sat on my couch. It sounded insane, even to me. I checked the time. It was just past midnight. My only thought was to get as far away from that apartment as possible. I took the stairs down instead of the elevator, my paranoia telling me I'd get stuck if I stepped inside. Outside, the cold air hit me like a slap, and I realized how badly I was shaking. My car was parked across the street, but I wasn't sure I could even drive in this state. I just stood there, staring up at my apartment window. The lights were still on. My stomach churned, and then, as I watched, the TV turned back on. I saw the glow flicker through the blinds. But this time, there were shadows moving across the screen. Shapes. Tall, thin shapes that shouldn't have been there. I felt a wave of nausea roll through me. I knew I wasn't seeing things. The glow from the TV flickered, casting those unnatural, elongated shadows against the blinds. But there was no one inside. At least, there shouldn't have been. My body screamed at me to run, to get as far away as possible, but I couldn't look away. The shadows moved, jerky and unnatural, like something was pacing inside. Then, suddenly, they stopped. A chill ran down my spine as I realized the shadows were now facing the window. Facing me. My breath hitched, and my legs finally obeyed. I turned and sprinted to my car, fumbling with my keys as I yanked the door open. My hands were trembling so badly, I nearly dropped them. I didn't dare look back as I started the engine, my only thought to drive, to go. The second the car roared to life, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I flinched so hard I almost let go of the wheel. With shaky hands, I pulled it out and looked at the screen. A notification from my smart TV app. Now playing your watch history. Episode name? I nearly threw my phone. My watch history? Someone or something was choosing that episode. The same one from weeks ago. My stomach twisted as one final thought lodged itself into my brain. Cold and certain. Whatever was in there, it had been watching with me all along.